Have you ever experienced a moment so perfectly timed that it felt like the universe itself was whispering in your ear? Maybe you were thinking about an old friend you hadn't spoken to in years, and suddenly they call or message you out of the blue. Or perhaps you've been struggling with a major decision, unsure of which path to take, and then, just as doubt begins to creep in, you see the perfect message on a billboard, a quote in a book, or lyrics in a song that seem to speak directly to you. These moments make us pause. They feel too precise to be mere chance, too aligned to be random. And maybe, just maybe, they aren't. Let me tell you a story. Long before Jim Carrey became famous, he was a struggling actor, barely making ends meet. One night, he wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered and dated it 5 years into the future. Every day, he carried that check in his wallet, looking at it, believing in it. 5 years later, almost to the day, he was cast in Dumb and Dumber and was paid exactly $10 million. The legendary actor Anthony Hopkins had a similar experience in the 1970s. He was preparing for a role in a film based on a novel called The Girl from Petrovka. Wanting to understand the material more deeply, he searched all over London for a copy of the book, but he couldn't find one anywhere. Frustrated, he gave up and headed home. But then, something strange happened. As he was waiting for his train, he noticed a book lying on a bench. Curious, he picked it up. It was The Girl from Petrovka. Not just any copy. This book had handwritten notes inside. Later, when he finally met the author, George Pfeiffer, he mentioned finding the book. Pfeiffer was stunned. He had lost his annotated copy of The Girl from Petrovka in London years earlier. And somehow, of all people, it found its way into Anthony Hopkins' hands. Now, how do we explain this? Was it just luck? A bizarre accident? Or was there something deeper at play? An invisible force weaving together events in ways we can't yet comprehend? Coincidence? Or was something guiding these moments, aligning them to fit perfectly into the bigger picture of their lives? Synchronicity is what happens when the universe winks at you. When events line up in ways that defy logic yet feel undeniably meaningful. And if that's the case, if these moments are more than just random chance, then the question isn't does synchronicity exist? The real question is, are you paying attention? You see, we're conditioned to believe that life is random, that events happen by pure chance, and that meaning is something we impose on the world, not something built into it. But what if that isn't true? What if the events in your life, the strange coincidences, the perfectly timed encounters, the little nudges that seem to guide you, aren't random at all? This is where the concept of synchronicity comes in. The term was coined by Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who dared to challenge the rigid, materialistic view of reality. He described synchronicity as meaningful coincidences with no causal connection, yet deeply significant. In other words, two things may not be logically linked, yet they happen in such a way that they feel undeniably connected, as if some hidden intelligence is at work. Let me tell you about one of Jung's most famous experiences, an event so uncanny that it shaped his entire understanding of synchronicity. Jung was working with a patient, a woman whose rigid, overly rational mind was blocking her from making any real progress in therapy. She was obsessed with control, dismissing anything that couldn't be logically explained. But one day, she came to his office with a dream about a golden scarab, an ancient symbol of transformation and rebirth. As she described the dream, something strange happened. At that exact moment, Jung heard a tapping at the window. He turned and saw a scarab beetle, a species rare in that region, desperately trying to get inside. Recognizing the incredible timing of the event, Jung caught the beetle, handed it to the woman, and said, "Here is your scarab." This moment broke something open in her. She could no longer deny the possibility that life was more than just logic and chance. For Jung, this was the essence of synchronicity, a moment where the inner world of the mind and the outer world of reality synchronized in a way that defied all rational explanation. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but aren't these just coincidences? Let's break that down. A coincidence is when two unrelated events happen at the same time. You and a stranger wearing the same shirt? Coincidence. Picking up your phone right before a friend calls? Coincidence. But a synchronicity? That's different. A synchronicity feels personal. It feels like an answer, as if life itself is responding to you. Think about it. Why do some coincidences strike us as deeply meaningful while others fade into the background? The difference is in the way they affect us, the way they make us pause and reflect. Synchronicities leave us with a feeling of awe, a sense that something unseen is at play. Now, skeptics will say, well, that's just your brain making connections where none exist. But if that were true, if synchronicity was just a trick of the mind, then why do these moments so often come at the exact right time? Why do they happen in moments of crisis, decision, or transformation? Why do so many great thinkers, artists, and scientists report experiencing them before making breakthroughs? Einstein himself once said, "Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous." Maybe these moments aren't just coincidences. Maybe they are glimpses into a deeper order, a structure beneath reality that we don't yet fully understand. And if that's the case, then the real question is this: are you willing to pay attention? Because if you do, you might just start to see the patterns. You might begin to notice that life is speaking to you in ways you never expected. If this journey intrigues you, consider subscribing to the channel. There's so much more to uncover. At this point, you might be wondering, is synchronicity real? Or is it just wishful thinking? A trick of the mind? A fancy way of saying coincidence? Skepticism is natural. In fact, it's necessary. The moment we stop questioning, we stop growing. So let's do something different. Instead of blindly accepting or rejecting synchronicity, let's analyze it critically. Let's explore the science, the doubts, and the evidence. Because here's the paradox. The deeper you look, the harder it becomes to dismiss. One of the most common dismissals of synchronicity is this: you're just seeing what you want to see. Your brain is filtering information and noticing patterns that match your expectations. This is known as confirmation bias, a well-documented psychological effect where we tend to focus on information that aligns with what we already believe. And yes, it's true. We are wired to recognize patterns. It's a survival mechanism. Our ancestors needed to recognize danger, predict outcomes, and make sense of the world. That's why we see faces in clouds, hear messages in static, and sometimes think the universe is giving us a sign when it's really just randomness. But here's where this argument falls apart. If synchronicity were merely confirmation bias, then why do people experience life-altering synchronicities when they aren't expecting them? Why do they happen in moments of crisis, transition, or deep reflection, often when the person isn't even looking for them? Think about it. Have you ever had a synchronicity that felt so strange, so improbable, that you knew it wasn't just your brain playing tricks on you? A moment that struck you so deeply, it felt like something greater was at work? If confirmation bias were the full explanation, these events would feel ordinary. But they don't. They feel profound. And science is starting to show why. Let's step into the world of quantum physics for a moment. One of the most baffling discoveries in modern science is something called the observer effect. In simple terms, it means this: the act of observing something can change its behavior. Scientists discovered this when studying particles at the quantum level. When left unobserved, these particles existed in multiple states at once, a phenomenon called superposition. But the moment they were measured, they collapsed into a single reality. In other words, consciousness influences matter. If that sounds mystical, it's not. It's a scientifically proven fact. Now, think about synchronicity. Could it be possible that your awareness, your thoughts, your inner world somehow influence your outer reality? Carl Jung and quantum physicist Wolfgang Pauli thought so. They believe synchronicity might be a bridge between psychology and physics, a sign that our thoughts don't just passively exist inside our heads, but actually shape the world around us. And if that's true, then maybe synchronicities aren't just coincidences. Maybe they're evidence that consciousness interacts with reality in ways we don't fully understand. Now, let's tackle another classic argument. Aren't synchronicities just coincidences? And doesn't probability guarantee that coincidences will happen from time to time? Yes, probability does suggest that random overlaps will occasionally occur. If you flip a coin enough times, you'll eventually get a long streak of heads. If you meet enough people, eventually you'll run into someone with your exact birthday. But here's the key difference. Synchronicities feel personal. They don't just happen. They happen at the right moment, in the right way, carrying the right message. Example, a man about to quit his dream job sees a random graffiti message that says, "Don't give up." That's not just any coincidence. That's a highly meaningful coincidence. Statistically speaking, the odds of seeing a sign like that exist. But the odds of it happening exactly when you needed it most? That's something else entirely. Even probability experts admit that certain coincidences are too rare to be explained by chance alone. The great psychologist William James put it best: "We reject coincidence only when it hits too close to home." Let me leave you with a question. What if synchronicity is real? What if life is not random, but intelligently woven together, filled with messages waiting to be noticed? Would that change the way you see the world? Because whether you believe it or not, one thing is certain. Once you open your mind to synchronicity, you start to see it everywhere. And when that happens, you realize that life isn't just happening to you. You're a part of it. You're connected. And maybe, just maybe, the universe is speaking to you in ways you never imagined. Now let's talk about the different levels of meaningful coincidences. Not all synchronicities are created equal. Some are like whispers, subtle nudges that remind you that something unseen is at play. Others feel like a hand reaching into your life, redirecting you in ways you never expected. And then there are the earthquakes, the moments that break reality itself, shaking your understanding of what is possible. I call this the synchronicity spectrum, a way of categorizing meaningful coincidences based on their intensity, impact, and significance. Let's break it down. 1. Low-level synchronicity, subtle nods from the universe. These are the small moments, the everyday signs, the kind of synchronicities that are easy to dismiss until you start paying attention. You think of a song, and suddenly it plays on the radio. You're in a specific mood, and the world around you starts reflecting it. Rain when you're feeling melancholic, sunshine when you find clarity. You randomly glance at the clock, and it's 11:11 or 3:33 or some other repeating number that keeps showing up. At first glance, these seem minor. But here's the thing. They act like breadcrumbs, small clues that you are in tune with something deeper. If you begin noticing these little nudges, it means your awareness is expanding. The universe is starting to get your attention. So people brush them off. They assume it's just chance. But have you ever wondered, why do these small moments feel strangely personal? Could it be that they are signals, a way for life to remind you that you are connected? These little synchronicities don't force you to take action, but they invite you to pay attention. They're the doorway into something bigger. And when you step through that door, you start experiencing the next level. 2. Medium-level synchronicity signs that shape your path. This is when synchronicity stops being a coincidence and starts feeling like guidance. You're debating a big decision. Should you stay in this job? Should you take that leap of faith? Then, seemingly out of nowhere, you meet a stranger who tells you exactly what you needed to hear. You're feeling lost, unsure of your next step. Then you stumble upon a book, a speech, or even a random piece of graffiti that spells out the answer, as if it was placed there just for you. At this level, synchronicities don't just happen, they align. They show up at the perfect time. The right people, the right opportunities, the right message, each appearing when you most need them. And if you look back on your life, you might realize that these moments have been guiding you all along. Have you ever met someone who changed your life and later realized that the way you met was so improbable, it almost seemed arranged? That's the power of medium-level synchronicity. It nudges you in the right direction. It weaves connections that seem too perfect to be random. But even these pale in comparison to what comes next. 3. High-level synchronicity, reality-shifting events. This is where things get unbelievable. This is where synchronicity bends reality itself. Where events happen that seem so impossible, they rewrite your understanding of life. This is the kind of synchronicity Carl Jung experienced with the golden scarab. Imagine what that must have felt like. A symbol from her dream had manifested into the real world. Right there, in that moment. It shattered her resistance. It forced her to confront the idea that maybe, just maybe, there was something beyond logic, something greater than reason could explain. That is a high-level synchronicity. It's not just a nudge. It's not just a sign. It's a moment where the boundary between mind and reality dissolves. People who experience this level of synchronicity often say the same thing. It felt like the universe reached out and touched me. Albert Einstein had moments like this when formulating his theories. So did Nikola Tesla. So did countless great minds who have changed the world. When you reach this level, deep in your bones, that synchronicity isn't just real. It's fundamental. It's part of the fabric of existence itself. Now that you understand the spectrum, take a moment to reflect. What kind of synchronicities have you experienced? Have they been small nudges, medium-level signs, or reality-shifting events? The more you pay attention, the more you'll begin to notice. And once you start recognizing synchronicities in your life, something interesting happens. You stop feeling like life is just random events strung together. You start seeing the hidden connections. And once you do, you realize you are never alone in this journey. The universe has been speaking to you all along. Here's something most people don't realize. Synchronicities aren't all the same. They come in different forms, serving different purposes. Some act as warnings. Others offer guidance. Some are glimpses into the future, while others seem to bend reality to match your thoughts. I call them the 5 major types of synchronicity. And once you learn to recognize them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. Let's go through each one, along with real-life examples that show just how powerful they can be. 1. Warning or alert synchronicities. The universe steering you away from a bad path sometimes. Synchronicity doesn't just whisper, it grabs you by the shoulders and pulls you away from danger. These are the moments when everything seems to be blocking you from making a decision, only for you to later realize it was a blessing in disguise. Imagine this. You're about to buy your dream house. Everything seems perfect. The price is right. The neighborhood is beautiful, and you're already picturing yourself living there. But then, strange things start happening. The loan process keeps getting delayed. The seller suddenly becomes unresponsive. The paperwork mysteriously vanishes, forcing you to redo everything. It's frustrating. It feels like the universe is working against you. Then, a week before closing, the deal falls through completely. You're heartbroken. But months later, you hear the news. The house had severe structural issues. The foundation was failing. The new buyers were drowning in repairs and legal battles. What felt like an obstacle was actually protection. The universe wasn't stopping you. It was saving you. How many times in your life have things refused to work out, only for you to later realize it was for your own good? That's a warning synchronicity. And the more you recognize them, the more you'll learn to trust the red flags when they appear. 2. Confirmation synchronicities. Signs that you're on the right path sometimes. We're at a crossroads. We feel uncertain, wondering if we're making the right decision. And then, just when we need it most, the universe sends a sign. Let's say you're contemplating a big career change. You're scared. Doubt creeps in. But deep down, something tells you this is what you're meant to do. Then, as you sit in a park, lost in thought, a butterfly lands on your hand. Now, that might seem small, but consider what the butterfly symbolizes: transformation, rebirth, and new beginnings. And suddenly, you feel it, a deep, unshakable knowing. That's synchronicity confirming what your soul already knew. These moments happen more often than we realize. You'll hear a song lyric that speaks directly to your situation. A book will literally fall off the shelf, containing the exact message you needed. A stranger will randomly tell you something that feels like it was meant just for you. Synchronicity doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just gently nods, letting you know you're on the right track. Keep going. 3. Prophetic synchronicities. Glimpses of the future before it happens. Have you ever dreamed about something, only to see it play out exactly as you saw it? You kept noticing a certain number, word, or symbol, and later realized it was pointing you toward a major life shift? These are prophetic synchronicities, when reality seems to preview itself before events actually unfold. Consider this real-life example. A man named Mark kept seeing the number 444 everywhere. License plates, receipts, the time on his phone. It happened so often, he finally looked it up. The meaning? Major life changes are coming. Stay strong. Trust the process. Days later, he lost his job. But within a month, he had landed a new position that paid twice as much, doing something he was actually passionate about. The signs were there before it happened. How many times in your life have you noticed repeating patterns? Certain dreams, symbols, or words that keep appearing, only for you to later realize they were guiding you towards something significant? Synchronicities don't just reflect reality. Sometimes they predict it. 4. Manifestation synchronicities. When thoughts become reality, this is the type of synchronicity that shocks people the most. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call you out of nowhere. You're longing for a new job, and then, suddenly, a recruiter reaches out with the perfect opportunity. It's as if reality is responding to your thoughts. Many spiritual traditions teach that thoughts create reality. Synchronicity often acts as a bridge between the mind and the physical world, showing you that what you focus on has the power to manifest. 5. Opportunity synchronicities. The universe aligning for your breakthrough, and then there are the moments that feel like destiny itself is at play. You lose a job, and then, out of nowhere, a better offer appears. You randomly decide to take a different route home, and bump into someone who completely changes your life. These synchronicities rearrange events in ways that seem impossible, placing you exactly where you need to be at the perfect moment. Think of Anthony Hopkins and his bizarre book Coincidence. He was cast in a movie based on a novel, The Girl from Petrovka, but he couldn't find a copy anywhere. Then, by pure chance, he found one on a random park bench. When he later met the author, he discovered that the book he had found was the author's own personal copy, which had been lost. How do you explain something like that? Sometimes, life seems to have a script of its own. And when synchronicity is at work, you realize you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Now that you understand what synchronicities are and how they can shape your life, the next question is, how do you start recognizing them? How do you move from simply noticing coincidences to actively working with them, using them as a tool for guidance, clarity, and transformation? The truth is, synchronicities are happening around you all the time. The difference between someone who experiences them often and someone who doesn't isn't luck, it's awareness. And right now, we're going to shift your awareness in real time. Let's test synchronicity right now. This is not just a theory, it's something you can experience for yourself. Let's do a small experiment. Pick a number, color, or symbol in your mind. It can be anything. A specific number like 777, a color like red, or an image like a feather or a butterfly. Hold it in your mind for a few moments. Now let it go. Over the next 24 hours, simply observe. Don't actively search, don't obsess. Just pay attention and see if this number, color, or symbol starts appearing in unexpected places. Maybe the number pops up on a receipt, a license plate, or your phone at an oddly perfect moment. Maybe you suddenly notice someone wearing that exact color multiple times. Maybe a feather or butterfly appears in a place where it shouldn't be. Most people will be shocked at how quickly this happens. Because the truth is, synchronicity has always been there. You just weren't tuned into it before. Let's take this one step further. Think of a question or problem you've been struggling with. It could be about your career, a relationship, or a major life decision. Something that has been on your mind, something you wish you had clarity on. Now, instead of trying to force an answer, simply ask the universe for guidance. Say to yourself, "Show me a sign," and then let go. Don't try to guess what the sign will be. Don't overanalyze. Just stay open. Over the next few days, notice what unexpected messages, symbols, or encounters arise. Maybe you'll overhear a random conversation that contains exactly the wisdom you needed. Maybe a book will catch your eye with a title that perfectly answers your question. This isn't magic. This is awareness. When you ask for signs, you don't summon something new. You simply train yourself to notice what was always there. Now let's go deeper. These techniques will heighten your ability to see and work with synchronicities in your daily life. 1. Journaling your synchronicities. Have you ever noticed that when you write something down, it suddenly seems to happen more often? That's because writing focuses your awareness. Start keeping a synchronicity journal. Every time something strange, meaningful, or coincidental happens, write it down. Patterns will emerge. You'll notice themes repeating, certain numbers, symbols, people, or situations showing up again and again. Sometimes, we only see the meaning of synchronicities in hindsight. Journaling helps connect the dots faster. 2. Stepping out of routine. New experiences trigger more synchronicities. Most people's lives are on autopilot. The same routes, the same habits, the same people. But synchronicities often come when we step into the unknown. Ever notice how, when you travel, strange coincidences seem to happen more often? Or when you make a big life change, everything suddenly aligns in ways you never expected. This is because new experiences shake you out of old patterns. Try this. Take a different route home. Visit a place you've never been before. Have a conversation with someone new. Watch how synchronicities start appearing more frequently when you break your normal routines. 3. Following your intuition. It's directly connected to synchronicity. Intuition and synchronicity are two sides of the same coin. Your intuition is like an internal GPS. It knows things before your mind does. Your intuition and synchronicities are working together. Whenever you feel a gut instinct, follow it, even if it doesn't make sense at the time. Because often, what seems like an irrational decision is actually leading you towards something you can't yet see. Synchronicity isn't just some rare phenomenon. It's a constant conversation between you and the universe. The more you pay attention, the more you'll see. The more you trust, the more guidance you'll receive. And the more you act on it, the more your life will begin to flow in ways you never imagined. So as you move through today, keep your eyes open. The universe is speaking to you. Are you listening? So here we are. We've traveled through the depths of synchronicity, what it is, how it works, why it matters. We've explored the science, the philosophy, the stories that defy logic yet feel profoundly meaningful. But now, I want to leave you with a simple truth. Synchronicities are not random. They are messages. They are opportunities. They are guides. They are the universe's way of whispering to you, nudging you towards something greater. Whether it's a decision, a realization, or simply the understanding that you are more connected to this existence than you ever imagined. And here's the most fascinating part. The more you pay attention, the more they appear. It's as if reality is waiting for you to notice, and the moment you do, it responds. So let me ask you, are you listening? Are you paying attention? Because right now, even as you hear these words, synchronicity is already at work in your life. That number you keep seeing, that person you randomly thought about, that coincidence that felt like more. What if it is more? What if life itself is always communicating with you, waiting for you to wake up to its hidden patterns? I want to hear from you. What's the most powerful synchronicity you've ever experienced? Drop it in the comments below. Or if you're still waiting for your first undeniable synchronicity, comment, "I'm listening." And if this message resonated with you, make sure to like this video, not just for me, but as a way of affirming to the universe, I am paying attention. And of course, subscribe so you never miss out on future insights, because trust me, we're only scratching the surface. Synchronicity is real. The universe is speaking. Now, it's your turn to listen.